Disappointed Issinuru residents meet the president over court ruling. The head of state continues call for expeditiousness in litigations as Guyana law reports are updated and call for persuading its partner to invest in Guyana. Welcome to this week's edition of The Diary, the Government Information Agency program that provides a recap of the highlights of the country's president for the week January 19 to 25. Thank you for joining us. I am your host, Fabian Klaus. Do stay tuned.
Preparations are on the way for another phase of the Hinterland electrification program, even as 11,000 solar panels were distributed last year. Government's vision is to ensure that every hinterland household has access to electricity within 5 years.
The East Bank Demerara is undergoing significant transformation as the drive to ensure that Guyanese own their own homes continue. The Housing Ministry's vision is to distribute 30,000 house lots on that corridor alone within the next 5 years.
Community development plans will serve as a springboard for advancing Amerindian development. With the signing of the agreement with the United Nations Development Fund for the release of the GRIFT funds, soon 27 communities will begin implementation of their plans, with most of them focusing on various aspects of farming. Following the court ruling that went in favor of a mining permit in the Issinuru village, the government sought to point out clauses in the Amerindian Act that offers a recourse to the Issinuru Village Council. The concerned group had met the president in their ongoing resolve to challenge the court ruling. The group of Amerindians met the president at his office for a meeting and were assured of the executive's support. The court ruling passed down on January 17 stated that the miner has been granted the mining license before the Amerindian Act came into force and should proceed with mining despite interventions by the village council or the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission. The distraught Amerindians subsequently questioned the act, which gives Amerindians veto power over any activity on their titled lands. Minister Sukai, who accompanied a team of government ministers to the meeting with the president, however, had a different perspectives.
Every actor, every piece of legislation may not be totally perfect, but the Amerindian Act is a really comprehensive piece of modern legislation, and there are many clauses that provides levels of protection. The villages, the village councils, they have to use the act. If the act is used, and that will offer some level of protection in cases.
The government has been following the case very closely as they too were a party to it through the GGMC.
He was explaining about his concern about this ruling, which he feels the lawyer or the justice has ruled that is contrary to the law. So we got that understanding, but still we are not satisfied with that. So we were able to share with him our how we feel about this ruling, because I was able to tell the president that we are in a state of shock right now.
The goal of Guyana's modernization of the Justice Administration System program has seen the complete set of Guyana law reports from 1930 to 2007 now accessible online, and litigations from 1977 updated in printed form to 2007. The 200 set of 14 volumes printed builds on the last undertaken 16 years ago and gives attorneys and citizens easy and efficient access to reference materials in their case preparations. By logging on to its website, the person of interest will gain access to court rulings that were made at the level of the High Court, Supreme Court, and Court of Appeal over the last 83 years, and a gazette that is updated every Saturday. The head of state hailed the initiative as one that will lend support to the judiciary in performing its duties, but is also hopeful that it will support interventions to address expeditiousness in the judiciary.
It grieves me sometimes to know that people are incarcerated for long periods of time without having an opportunity for their cases to be heard. And it is very, very clear that there is great room for improvement in this regard, and to try to make justice swifter. The old saying, justice delayed is justice denied.
Cabinet had only recently given the green light to a request made by Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anand Nandlall for an increase in the complement of jurists to address the backlog issue, and has tabled legislation that holds them to timeliness in the passing down of decisions.
It is important that people, these are some of the complaints that I have heard myself, that people complain that sometimes they take an extremely long time to get decisions, judges' decisions in writing. And that obstructs, probably that is one of the reasons, and this is where the judiciary can help us, because one of the reasons our country probably marked down a bit low in terms of competitiveness has to do with some of these things.
With a constitution that separates the powers of the judiciary from the legislature and executive, the president said his government has been loyal to the status quo, despite numerous criticisms and perceptions, some by judges themselves.
I have had a sneaking opinion for quite a while now, that many of the decisions that we see in our courts, particularly as it relates to the state, I was often getting the impression that some judges, in order to want to try to demonstrate their independence, sometimes feel that they have to rule against the state.
An Inter-American Development Bank loan approved in 2007 made funding for the publication of the complete set of Guyana law reports possible, and a reputable Canadian firm contracted to undertake the upgrading exercise. The process will be ongoing, according to Minister Nandlall.
We intend to have this exercise as a continuous one to ensure that the law reports, we continue to have them and to publish them. We would have from 2007 to 2013 a gap of about 5 to 6 years to fill, and we intend to fill that.
Modernization of the justice system in Guyana has also seen amendments to the criminal and procedural law, extensive renovations to chambers of the Director of Public Prosecution, and the reorganizing and strengthening of the Attorney General chambers. You're watching The Diary, more still ahead. Community development plans will serve as a springboard for advancing Amerindian development. With the signing of the agreement with the United Nations Development Fund for the release of the GRIFT funds, soon 27 communities will begin implementation of their plans, with most of them focusing on various aspects of farming.
The East Bank Demerara is undergoing significant transformation as the drive to ensure that Guyanese own their own homes continue. The Housing Ministry's vision is to distribute 30,000 house lots on that corridor alone within the next 5 years.
Preparations are on the way for another phase of the Hinterland electrification program, even as 11,000 solar panels were distributed last year. The government's vision is to ensure that every hinterland household has access to electricity within 5 years.
Baishanlin, the Chinese wood processing and manufacturing company operating in Guyana, has been overwhelmed by responses to its recruitment exercise, with interest exceeding the 700 employees it had sought. The company ended up taking on 800 Guyanese for work and has already assigned 100 of those to their working positions. The recruitment drive comes in light of the company's plans for large-scale industries, among which is a wood economic and trade park that will promote production of various kinds of wood products and brands that will boost the development of the local economy. The park will include industries for shipbuilding, woodworking, machinery, processing and manufacturing, food and aquatic processing, mining, and a school and hospital. Chairman of the China Forest Industries Group Company Limited, the parent company for Baishanlin Forest Development Incorporated, Chu Wenji, met the president for the second time this month, joining Minister of Housing and Water Irfan Ali, Minister of Natural Resources and the Environment Robert Persaud, and the new Chinese ambassador to Guyana, Zheng Laimin, to continue talks in relation to its wood processing plant in Linden and housing development and Providence on the east bank of Demerara. The Muslim community celebrated Yom Nabi, the birth of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, on January 24, gathering at various masjids across the country for prayers, thanksgiving, and reflections. The head of state joined the gathering at the Peters Hall Jamaat, preaching a message of freedom and justice. On one of the most auspicious occasions on the Muslim calendar, the head of state drew attention to the current conflicts in some parts of the world where wars are being waged against civilians in a struggle for freedom. He believes that they deserve solidarity from people on this end, regardless of the distance.
We must see our world as one as well. And we must also understand now too, that what happens in one part of the world will always have effects on us. Sometimes those effects are strong, sometimes they are not so strong. But they do affect us in one way or the other.
Guyana stood in solidarity with the Palestinian people, joining Suriname to be among the first countries in CARICOM to formally recognize its statehood, and mounted a peaceful protest outside the U.S. Embassy over the recent bombardment of Palestinians in Gaza by the Israeli military. In his debut address to the 67th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September last year, President Ramotar said Guyana recognizes the state of Palestine based on its 1967 borders and supports her aspirations to full membership of the United Nations. He also called for a renewal of efforts to bring the warring parties in Syria to the negotiating table. In his Yom Nabi address, President Ramotar said Guyana is in a fortunate position and should pursue all efforts to safeguard its fortunes.
One of the things that will always strike me and anyone else who have any little idea of the life of the Prophet was his fight for justice. And that is something that we should have no compromise about at all. Freedom and justice are priceless things, and you cannot put a price tag on it.
The Holy Prophet, according to the Islamic doctrines, lived a life of benevolence and leniency, but fought in the name of Islam against oppressors of the faith. Do stay tuned, there is more of the diary.
The East Bank Demerara is undergoing significant transformation as the drive to ensure that Guyanese own their own homes continue. The Housing Ministry's vision is to distribute 30,000 house lots on that corridor alone within the next 5 years.
Community development plans will serve as a springboard for advancing Amerindian development. With the signing of the agreement with the United Nations Development Fund for the release of the GRIFT funds, soon 27 communities will begin implementation of their plans, with most of them focusing on various aspects of farming.
Preparations are on the way for another phase of the hinterland electrification program, even as 11,000 solar panels were distributed last year. Government's vision is to ensure that every hinterland household has access to electricity within 5 years.
In February, the Universal Peace Federation, Interreligious and International Federation of World Peace, of which Guyana and other countries in Latin America and the Caribbean are members, will be meeting in Guyana for the first time to discuss plans for the future and commemorate Foundation Day. With 2013 considered a special year in God's dispensation, Reverend Dong Mu Shin, Regional Chair of the Universal Peace Federation in Latin America and the Caribbean, will be leading discussions focusing on the outlook for 2013. The group gathers for meetings in various parts of the world with the agenda to promote better family life and religious harmony.
Next month is what we'll be observing what is called Foundation Day, which, from a unificationist perspective, is that we're going to be seeing a change taking place in this world for better. There are those who are thinking that the world is going to be destroyed and things like that. You know, a generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever.
Pastor McGarrell from the Interreligious Organization joined Reverend Dong Mu Shin and leaders of the Caribbean grouping at a courtesy meeting with President Ramotar on January 21 that focused on character education, the gender imbalance in educational institutions, and its correlation with domestic violence, among other important topics.
What we feel is going to change is people's whole attitude towards life and the purpose of why we've been created. You know, things are going to happen that will eventually force mankind to make the right choices, because this world was created for us to live in peace and harmony and to really enjoy the beauty of God's creation.
The Universal Peace Federation is a global network of individuals and organizations dedicated to building a world of peace in which everyone can live in freedom, harmony, cooperation, and prosperity. Interfaith peace building, peace and security, marriage and family, culture of peace, service, sports, and art are key to the Foundation's doctrines. The plural nature of Guyana's multi-ethnic, multicultural society, with a constitution that encourages religious coexistence, makes it a fitting venue for the gathering. With years of experience doing business in Guyana, Qualfon Guyana has persuaded Kipany Productions to explore possibilities of expanding business here. Representatives of the two companies met with the government, and with large telephone companies in the United States as clients, has already spotted opportunities, according to Kip Cooligan, co-founder and chief operations officer of Kipany Productions.
And the thought is that we might be able to bring telephone calls here to have citizens of your country answer those calls and provide customer service.
Kipany Productions has been in business over 30 years and is focused on direct marketing services. The consideration of expanding business to Guyana is primarily based on Guyana's relationship with the United States, and as an English-speaking country is at an advantageous position for this type of investment. It was the same potential that was spotted that led to Qualfon Guyana's call center establishment. The center is ranked superior to the other customer service operations in other countries, and with a staff complement of 1,700 at its Betafawakting East Coast Demerara location, it has planned in the near future to open branches at Sparendam and Providence on the east bank of Demerara. Well, that's all in this week's edition of the Diary for the period January 19 to 25. Before we go, these were some of the highlights. Disappointed Issinuru residents meet the president over court ruling. The head of state continues call for expeditiousness in litigations as Guyana law reports are updated, and Qualfon persuading partner to invest in Guyana. Do join us again next week when we'll bring you more. I am Kevin Kraus, thanking you for joining us. You have a pleasant and safe rest of the week.